In a total disregard to the West, Russia and China agreed on the biggest gas pipeline deal, highlighting their growing economic and energy ties. Gazprom, the largest energy firm in Russia, said it signed a legally binding agreement to build the long-anticipated Power of Siberia 2 gas pipeline to China. Now, this long-planned Power of Siberia 2 could carry an additional 50 billion cubic meters of gas annually from Russia's Arctic Yamal fields to China via Mongolia. Now, this is a major win for Putin, who has increasingly turned to China to replace Europe as its major gas buyer. Russia's gas exports to Europe have collapsed since Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. The West has imposed punitive economic sanctions on Russia and reduced dependency on Russian energy, seeking to cut off a major source of revenue funding Putin's war machine. The European Union introduced measures to stop the import of Russian gas and oil by the end of 2027, and the US imposed a ban on the import of Russian fossil fuels in March 2022. Now, this new deal is a collective show of defiance against US President Donald Trump, who is pushing countries to cut Russian energy imports as parts of his attempt to end the war in Ukraine. Since losing a lucrative chunk of the European gas market, Russia has pivoted towards China. Gazprom has been seeking an agreement for years on the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline. However, China has been far more cautious. Now, this is mainly due to two factors. Beijing is worried of excessive dependence on a single supplier, and gas demand growth has been slowing. At least one top Russian energy executive sees China moving towards energy independence with vast renewable and nuclear energy projects. Now, much remains unclear. Pricing, building, and timeframes have not been announced. Now, the lack of progress on pricing indicates that China is also demanding steep discounts from Russia. Alexei Miller, CEO of Gazprom, said negotiations on cost would be handled separately, a sticking point as Russia seeks to offset the loss of its European gas market, while China is seeking discounts. Now, Russia will probably earn less than it did for the same sales volume in Europe. The price of gas supplies to China is objectively lower than to Europe because the fields are closer and the transport leg is shorter. But for Russia, doubling its gas export capacity to China will offset the collapse of its sales to Europe, which have plunged from 157 BCM in 2021 to an expected 39 BCM in 2025.
Это, знаете, здесь нет никакой благотворительности ни с одной, ни с другой стороны. Это взаимовыгодные договоренности. Они реализуются на рыночных принципах. Повторяю, они будут получать продукт по взвешенным рыночным ценам, не по каким-то завышенным, как это сейчас мы видим в той же еврозоне.
However, the deal signals a significant shift in the global gas market. It also gives China an alternative to importing liquefied natural gas from the US, Qatar, and Australia. The message is China is no longer even pretending to comply with US sanctions or care about what the West thinks, and it's not alone. Moscow and Beijing also signed commercial agreements to increase supplies through existing routes by 8 BCM with the aim of bringing total annual flows to 56 BCM before the new pipeline was built, shared Miller.
Я тоже все-таки «Газпром» одна из наших ведущих компаний, у него расширяются новые рынки. В целом это вот через Монголию у нас будет 50 миллиардов, то, что сейчас есть 38, и потом еще там пара маршрутов, но которые тоже будут увеличиваться. В целом получится свыше 100 миллиардов кубических метров газа.